I'm really excited to do my show today from Florida, where I am visiting my parents. I thought it was especially serendipitous to be doing an episode about conscious relationships while I'm being with some of my closest people. So they want to come on camera and say hello. Really excited about this. There's
Hello.
My dad, Wayne.
Make sure you listen to everything that Jessica says. She is a great advisor and teacher.
Oh, thanks, Dad. And my second mom, Susie.
Hi. Well, Jessica asked me to just say a couple words about conscious relationships, and so the one that I get to practice the most is in relationship with my life partner, husband, Wayne. And I think what I would say about that is why we succeed is because we try to stay in the present moment. And that way we're not going back and into the future, and we can give the time to look more deeply into what's really happening. So.
Nice. Thanks, Susie. Thank you, parents. Just a little treat for the beginning of our show this morning. Well, welcome. I'm Jessica Disbrow, licensed social worker and registered psychotherapist in the state of Colorado. I'm also the founder and primary therapist of Higher Consciousness Healing. We're an innovative mental health practice in Lakewood, Colorado, offering community building, individual and group counseling, and we also have free online education through social media. So thank you so much for joining us. Last week we talked about unconditional love, how important it is to love ourselves first, have good healthy boundaries, calling out people with love, and the forgiveness piece is just so important. Well, today we're going to talk about conscious relationships. And now I want to say a little bit of something about unconscious relationships first, because I feel like in order to talk about what a conscious relationship is and how we can get there, we have to evaluate what happens first, which is an unconscious relationship. A really great example of that, being a child or a young person, like we just don't have the same level of consciousness that we do when we're older. So by default, we're kind of having unconscious relationships. And also by default, in order to have a conscious relationship, it really does need to be a choice. So that's also important. But what are unconscious relationships and what do they look like? Unconscious relationships, usually the people who are in them are lacking in self-awareness and don't really have a lot of good intentions in the relationship. It's really about what they can get and not necessarily about what they can give. A lot of times people often act out in various ways that can be really nasty. There's usually a lot of blaming and lack of accountability. A lot of times one partner will be like, it's all your fault, and the other partner will take blame and be like, oh my God, it's my fault. I'm doing all these terrible things. But really that's not what's happening. It's just a pattern that those two people are playing out. So it's usually both people. I would argue it's always both people. It's not one person's fault and the other person gets totally absolved. That's not really real. Then we have our special love-hate relationships. And those are really, I'm sure you've seen them, like you love each other so much one minute and then you're fighting and screaming and you're like, what just happened with this couple? Or if you're experiencing that yourself, you're like, what happened with me or my person? And that's not a really good area to be going back and forth from love and hate. Another thing that you'll see often is people will play out the victim-perpetrator dynamics. A few other examples, secrets, lying, lack of unity and trust. And then a lot of times people in unconscious relationships will numb out with TV, food, substances, any kind of distractions. Now, I know you're probably like, some of you in the audience, well, I probably do some of those things. I've been guilty of doing a lot of those things. And it's totally okay. We all are on a learning journey, and we all learn so much through these really important relationships that we have. Because when we have these relationships, what's going on is we actually have this amazing opportunity to work through our own issues as well and really learn and grow. How do we make an unconscious relationship conscious? Well, the secret, might not like it that much, but it's actually all about you. Yeah, it's not really about the other person. It actually comes down to you. It goes back to that self-acceptance and that self-love and taking radical responsibility, all that jazz. We must see ourselves first, totally and completely, and love ourselves where we're at before we can try and make those leaps to love each other. And now, don't get me wrong, it's not a black and white situation. It's not like unconditional love all the time or hate. It's really complicated and really multi-layered, and that we are all ideally moving towards unconditional love, but we all make mistakes. We have to just meet ourselves where we're at and each other. All right, so if it's about you and you make the conscious choice, I'm going to make this relationship conscious, whatever kind of relationship it is. And so, I'm approaching this person with love and kindness and things are going well, but then they do something to really piss me off. And I'm like, screw this person. What's up with that? So what do we do when someone makes us upset? First, it's helpful to recognize, before I go into what we can do specifically, a little bit of a preface. We bury our unconscious issues and then we project them. So a lot of times when we have issues with ourselves that we don't want to deal with and we don't want to face, we bury them deep inside. And some of them have been there since childhood, and some of them are pretty irrational and don't even really make a lot of sense, However, that's what's going on. And we can thank Anna Freud for that. She did a lot of work with ego defenses, and that was one of them, is projection. We project our issues. And a lot of times we're not conscious of it. A really great example of this would be the homophobic man who's actually gay. And that was always shocking to me. It's like, how do people just not know? Don't you know? Doesn't some part of you know? And it's like, yes, but we bury it and we deny it and we lie, and then we attack people who are exhibiting the behavior that we're trying to avoid or deny. So a lot of times that's what's happening. So the first thing that we can do when someone makes us upset, besides take a break from the situation, is turn it around on ourselves. Because we do need to check ourselves to see, is this something that I'm projecting? Because our brain actually isn't really that good at deciphering different kinds of situations and all of their nuances. A lot of times our brain says, what does this situation look like? And the brain pulls up an old memory and it's like, oh, this situation looks like that situation. And that means that I need to respond in the same way I responded before because, maybe that might have worked out or didn't. Just brain responses, a lot of different reasons. And then we have that reaction. And we have to question, is a reaction our past patterning playing out? Is it something you don't like about yourself? Something that you're denying? And then deal with that within yourself. Accept it, acknowledge it, all of the emotions involved, and find a place for forgiveness. Because we really do accept the love that we think we deserve. And so when we're not working on ourselves and not acknowledging our issues, it's hard for us to accept unconditional love from someone else. So ultimately, we must sort out our issues first. Then we can reevaluate. And if we do think it's necessary to confront the person with whatever's going on, because sometimes people do say mean things and they are mean. Let's speak out about that. Maybe not necessarily in the moment when, we're upset, but afterwards, if there's a friend or family member who said something that wasn't so nice, that really rubbed us the wrong way, after we're like, okay, is this me? How do I sort through that? Okay, I understand this from a deeper place. But what if it's someone you're playing out a pattern with over and over again? How do we confront that with love and sit them down and help them recognize what the pattern is and where it's coming from? And, too many of us put up with mistreatment and passive-aggressive remarks, and people really not showing us a lot of love, and like name calling. That happens so much in intimate relationships, and it's like considered normal. It's like, oh, my boyfriend just called me a B, blah blah blah. Like, let's not. Like, even when we're upset, let's try and not. Because being upset and trying to sort things out while we're upset just really doesn't work out. It really doesn't work out. The best conversations to have, around things that are making us heated is when we're calm and collected and can actually approach things rationally. That part of the brain that's kicking up all of those different emotions that are really intense, we just don't know how to deal with them sometimes, and it's good to take a break. It's all about unconditional love and unconditional giving. And when we give in a relationship, we don't have any expectations for that gift. We really give it fully and completely with love. Oh, that pretty much ends up my show today. How to make unconscious relationships conscious. I do want to talk more in depth about what conscious relationships look like and what kinds of things they really need to thrive. But I'm going to be covering that next week. So thank you so much for tuning in. I'm really glad that you all are watching. And if there's any questions or comments in the audience, please give those a shout out right now. And I'm just going to be making a quick announcement about something that Higher Consciousness Healing has coming up early in 2018. We're going to be offering a 12-week group therapy program for millennials ages 18 to 30. We're only taking 11 young people. The things that we're going to be covering in depth in the program, we're really going to be diving deep into trust and safety, issues around those areas, ways that we can build in trust and safety for ourselves and with others. We're going to be talking a lot about the brain and body connection, how important it is to take that evolutionary approach when thinking about our wellness and our mental health. And we're going to be diving deep into self-love topics, so like acceptance, forgiveness, a lot of the stuff I've been talking about on the show, but it's going to be more intimate, and it's going to be really tailored to the people who show up in the room. I'm looking for some inspired people, young people who are really ready to do the work, who have been starting to do the work on themselves, and they need a little bit of a booster and some empowerment and some knowledge, and hearing from other people. It's really great. So enough about that. If you're interested, definitely check it out on the web. I will leave the link in the description box. There's more information there. And if you're interested, definitely feel free to reach out by phone or email. All right, I don't see any questions, so I'll see you all next week, live at 10 a.m. Mountain Time here on Facebook. Thanks a lot, guys. Take care.